introduce and how this started to have someone of her caliber here, Dr. Gloria Morrow, is Brenda called me one day in the morning, and she was having a little situation, and she said, "Can we get some therapists to start coming in?" And I said, "Well, let's think about it, let's pray about it." So, hence, the best. And you read her bio, and we're just grateful that the Lord sends us so many wonderful speakers. Dr. Gloria Morrow, the CEO of GM Psychological Services, and is one of the nation's leading clinical psychologists. Dr. Gloria also serves as a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant and a lead trainer for the CBMCS California Brief Multicultural Competency Scale training program, which focuses on a training curriculum she helped to develop. Dr. Gloria facilitates a wide range of workshops and seminars, cultural humility and cultural competency as important. She has served as a consultant for the King Center in Atlanta, Georgia, where Dr. Bernice King is the CEO. Dr. Gloria's work in the role of spirituality and recovery has gained notoriety with the development of a 3-day training and handbook entitled SAFE, Spirituality and Faith Empowered, to equip the faith community and mental health professionals to help hurting people. She is also known for her extensive leadership and team building training. Dr. Gloria is sought after keynote speaker and workshop facilitator for conferences and retreats who discusses mental health and life skill topics for women and men. Dr. Gloria has appeared as a frequent guest on CNN and also appeared on MSNBC, NBC4, and Fox 11 News, and a variety of radio shows, including Stevie Wonder's KJLH. Dr. Gloria has authored several books, such as Too Broken to Be Fixed, A Spiritual Guide to Inner Healing, The Things That Make Men Cry, Keeping It Real, 7 Steps Toward a Healthier You, to name a few. And she recently wrote and published 2 ebooks entitled Unleash the Secret Weapons to Your Success and COVID-19, Maintaining Positive Emotions During Tough Times. Her new book, A Brand New Me with Dr. Gloria, is scheduled for release in August 2024, along with a 7-city tour. Dr. Gloria is also the CEO of Global Productions LLC and is a producer, playwright, filmmaker. She is in the pre-production phase of the first feature film, 3 Times a Lady. All right. Dr. Gloria was a long-serving board member of the California Black Women's Health Project, and she is now serving as a consultant. She is a proud member of the Omega Delta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated and the Claremont area of the Links Incorporated. So let's give her a warm welcome. So as I said earlier, we always want to be respectful to our speakers, but please, phones off. Make sure mine is. No sidebar conversations here from our speaker today. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Woo, good morning. Good morning. I think I need to use some mic. Want to use some mic? Okay. I am just so honored, and I always get so shy around all that stuff because, you know, I think, you know, all of us do a lot. All of us do a lot of work. But thank you for inviting me. I'm moved to tears in this room, and on the screen, so many incredible people who make life
We
better.
cannot see the speaker.
I'm sorry, you can't hear me?
I can't see you.
She's there, Mayon. I think maybe you need to adjust your settings.
Okay,
She's there.
I'm
We can
sorry.
hear her. Can you hear
All right,
me?
I apologize. Continue to go. I'm sorry.
Okay. I want her to hear. And so I'm just overwhelmed by the number of people who make lives better. And you need to know that you are important. And so when Sharon asked me to come, I was wondering, what will I talk about? And I know you all know what happens when you're caregiving and how stressful it can be at times, how wonderful it is at times. I was a caregiver for my father, uh, and I would not have wanted it any other way. I will always remember when he went home to be with the Lord, I could stand and I could sing and I could talk and I could smile because I had done everything that was possible to make his life better at the end. And so I want you to know that. And sometimes it doesn't feel like that because sometimes you're doing it by yourself and family. We won't talk about family. But they always say, you're the designated one, you know. And I had said, and I hope to make you all laugh a lot in my little time. I had said that at Dad's funeral, and when Mom passed, I would sit there with a bat. So when they went to the casket and started laying over in there, I could just push them in because they hadn't recognized it. Oh, they were dressed up in the colors. They were waiting on their seat in the family car. They were ready to go. But I thought about the fact that they had not really been there. So we're laughing about it, but I know some of us are in that situation where you're caring for folks and you don't really have help. You can't take a vacation, can't take off because you aren't sure that your loved one will really be cared for in the same way that you care for them. So I thought I would talk about overcoming compassion fatigue and developing self-compassion. Because at the end of the day, every single one of us who have done this job of helping others, we've been bombarded by trauma. The trauma of your loved one's situation, your own personal traumas, because life didn't stop for you just because you became a caregiver. So your own life, your own children, your own families, all of the other stuff, work, having enough finances, all of that stuff goes into it. So I want to help us today to understand compassion fatigue, what it is, because a lot of times we hear it in relationship to first responders, you know, when there's a disaster, people who are helping others can become traumatized with what we call secondary trauma. But I think some of us are suffering and we don't know what to do. So hopefully we'll have the answers today. So when we think about compassion fatigue, I want to read this little poem. It's a little piece, not a whole poem. It says the expectation that we can be immersed in suffering and loss daily and not be touched by it is as unrealistic as expecting to be able to walk through water without getting wet. So if you're in this room or on this screen and you think that you can deal with a loved one who's suffering day in and day out and not be touched by it, you're wrong. That doesn't mean you don't love helping, you don't love the person. It's just the reality of what we encounter when we are a helper. And we want to help. So what is compassion fatigue? It's defined as a state of exhaustion and dysfunction, biologically, psychologically, and socially, as a result of prolonged exposure to secondary trauma or a single intensive event. So how many of you can just admit that I have been a little bit traumatized? Yeah. And I think we have done a great job with covering it up because we know we have to keep doing what we're doing because there's no one else to do it. But that does not stop us from feeling all the things that we will feel because of it. And you wait till I tell you some of the symptoms of compassion fatigue. There are cognitive symptoms, such as lowered concentration, decreased self-esteem, apathy, disorientation, perfectionism. Gotta have everything right. Every single thing must be perfect. Preoccupation with the trauma, and sometimes even thoughts of self-harm or harm to others. Let's just keep it real. This is what happens. And then emotionally, there are some symptoms: powerlessness, anxiety, guilt. You know, sometimes we feel like I haven't done enough. Or if I take a vacation, what is my family going to do? Or what is my loved one going to do? I was talking to a young lady yesterday who was caregiving for her grandmother. And she said her son, the grandmother's son, came to the house. But because she is the primary caregiver, the mother didn't want him to come into the bathroom to help her to get out of the bathroom. And so he called this young lady who's on a freeway. It is going to take her 30 minutes to get home. And he goes into the living room and gets on his cell phone. And when she comes home, the mother is still on the toilet in the bathroom. She wanted the young lady to help her. And he didn't insist on helping. So sometimes we feel guilty when we take a day off, take time off, because we know that that person is relying on us. But it's making us sick. There can be anger and rage. Let's keep it real. Let's be real. Every day we care for someone, they're not always in their best space. I want to say it real nice. They're not always having a good day. So it is normal to feel some anger at times. And I want you to give yourself permission to be angry, but sin not. All right, so we got to acknowledge it, because if you never acknowledge it, you're just walking around with it, it's going to get worse. So you have to say, you know, I'm a little ticked off today. And I'm going to do what I need to do to get myself together so I can go back in here and do what I have to do. But instead, we have to keep going. So now my anger is worse. Now I'm saying ugly things to the person. And I'm saying, you just wait until I get in there. Keeping it real. We gotta be real. You know, it's time out for pretending. We gotta be real so we can be helped. You can't be helped if you don't acknowledge where we are. Emotionally, we have shut down, sometimes survivor guilt, sometimes numbness and fear, sadness and depression, because a lot of times, especially if you're dealing with someone with Alzheimer or dementia who knew you last week and they don't know you this week, you're grieving.
Yes, yes.
And this is just one of 2 or 3 different times you will grieve with that same person, because you'll also grieve when God calls them home. But you're grieving now because they don't know you. They knew your name, and now they're calling you someone else. That's hard. So it makes us feel sad. And we don't know what to do with that. So a lot of times our sadness becomes irritability and anger, because we don't know what to do with it, to say, you know what, I'm grieving. I'm losing my loved one. And if they are still here, they still don't know who I am. And that is very difficult. Behaviorally, we can become impatient, irritable, withdrawn, moody. Our sleep can be deprived. Sometimes it's hard to sleep because we all want to be on high alert in case we're needed in the next room.
Yes, yes.
So you're not sleeping. Appetite changes. We can be vigilant. We're always expecting the worst to happen. You know, you hear a thump, you think the person has fallen. And you're on high alert. So what does that do to your body? You got to recognize what's going on. Spiritually, sometimes we question the meaning of life. There can be a loss of purpose, a lack of self-satisfaction. Sometimes we just get angry at God. You know, why is this person still suffering? Or why am I the only one helping? If you're such a good God, where's my help? This is real stuff. We can sometimes have a loss of faith. And then in our relationships, they can suffer. We can have withdrawal, decreased interest in intimacy. There can be mistrust and isolation. We can blame everybody for everything because we aren't able to own up to what I'm really feeling. And then it can really mess with our work performance. Most of us are caregiving full time, but that's your job. That's what you've taken on. So when you have low morale and low motivation, how does that affect even your job as a caregiver? So when we think about the symptoms of compassion fatigue, just sort of in a general way, could be loss of purpose, anxiety, sleep disturbance, hypervigilance, pervasive hopelessness, self-doubt, inability to concentrate, disorientation or forgetfulness, withdrawal, isolation, apathy, anger, emotional roller coaster. How many of us feel like we're on an emotional roller coaster? Feeling overwhelmed. And then the one I want to talk about, poor self-care. That's where we have to go. We cannot take care of anybody properly if you do not take care of yourself. Now, I know I came a long way to tell you this. A long way. A 2-hour drive to tell you that poor self-care is not going to serve you well. It's so important for us to value ourselves enough to understand if I'm not well, nobody is going to be well. I want you to understand that. You have to start telling yourselves, I am worthy of making myself a priority.
Amen.
And we're gonna say that a lot before I leave here today. Because y'all need to get that.
Yes.
Because most of the time,
Come on.
we are not taking care of ourselves. Going to the beauty shop and getting your nails done is not the only way to take care of yourself. That's nice. You know, it's nice to take that little break to do that. But the whole time you're in that salon, you're wondering,
Yes.
I wonder if they fed her. I wonder if they gave him his shower. You know, the whole time. Your mind is in 10 different places, and that is not self-compassion. Self-compassion is the ability to show empathy, love, and concern for yourself. Now, you're doing it with other people. You're doing it with this person you're caring for, but you're not doing it for yourself. And what we hear, I'm sure they've told you here, so many folks who are caregivers either check out before their loved one or shortly thereafter. Now, how many of you want to live? Then you need to start acting like it. There are 3 elements of self-compassion I want to introduce to you all, and one is self-kindness versus self-judgment. So I'm always judging myself. Am I doing enough? Am I doing what's right? Am I here when I'm supposed to be? You know, we are judging ourselves so harshly in doing this work instead of self-kindness. I am so grateful that I'm able to be a caregiver. I'm doing a wonderful job. That's self-kindness. I don't need nobody to tell me I'm doing a good job because I know I am. We don't need nobody to tell you that. I know I am. And I'm going to tell myself, you are doing a good job, so I'm take a break. I deserve to have a vacation. There are resources available, but we will not use them because the person said, I don't want to stay with them. I know what I'm talking about. I have plans that I talk to all the time. Well, why don't you take off? Because they don't want to be with nobody else. And my question to them, and my question to you is, but what happens if you're not here? They'll have to be with somebody. So therefore, I have to stop judging myself even when I have the thought that I need a break, that I need to take off. And then we let that guilt just override us. I know I need to take off. Your kids are saying, you need mama, daddy, you need to come take a little break. Oh, I can't do that. Then common humanity versus isolation is another element. Because unfortunately, sometimes we start isolating and we don't tell people what we need. This is my burden to bear. There are people who will help you if you ask. You gotta ask folks for help. We got so much pride because somehow I'm gonna feel like I'm not doing my job if I ask for help. Or I'm making somebody think I'm a bad caregiver. You better find you some people that will come and sit with your loved one 2 hours to give you a break. And you take your hips out of that house. Because some of you all will take a break in the next room. I want to make sure I'm right here. Then you're not on. You're on. Taking a break is a mental, physical, and spiritual break. That means I'm away from there for those 2 or 3 hours. And you'd be surprised what that 2 or 3 hours will give you when you really take a break. You all are the same people that would take a break at work. Just went right through break. Walk around the building. Don't call me. Don't ask me any questions. It's my break. And if somebody calls you while you're on your break, you ask this question: is it an emergency? And if they say, well, no, okay, I'll see you after my break. If you don't do this, you're not going to be here. Then who's going to care for your loved one? It won't be you. So we've got to understand that we need each other. This is why I'm so excited about this group, to have support, because you need it. And then the other thing is mindfulness versus over-identification. Some of us do more than we need to because we over-identify with the problems of the persons we're taking care of. So you may have had experiences where you had a loved one that didn't have somebody to take care of them and they didn't make it. And there's a lot of guilt and shame about that. And that's why what you do the way you do. That was them, not you. Stay in the here and now. I'm serving this person now. So it's okay for me to take care of myself. I have no guilt and shame about that. So what do? We have to be kind to ourselves and refrain from harsh criticism. Stop criticizing yourselves. You're doing the best you can. You're doing all you can. You're doing more than you really can do in a healthy way. Give yourself permission to be human with the potential to fail and make mistakes.
Say that again.
Give yourself permission to be what?
Human.
With the potential to fail and make mistakes. God is not punishing you. Some of us have not forgiven ourselves for things that happened 40 years ago. So we don't take care of ourselves because we think we don't deserve it. I'm getting what I deserve. That's hogwash. God has forgiven you. In fact, you know, God forgave us when he went to the cross.
Yeah.
You know, if truth be told, he already knew we were going to mess up time and time again. You know, he came in. So he already forgave us. So stop harboring unforgiveness toward yourself. Who knows how to be a caregiver? Who knows everything to do? Most of us get into this role because of necessity. It just gets dropped into your lap. You didn't go take a class. You didn't go get a degree in caregiving. It happened. And you were the willing vessel, and sometimes not so willing, but the only vessel to do it. So do you think you're going to do it and not make a mistake or two or three or four? How many times do we give the wrong medication? Or give them the first twice the same medication? When did you become a nurse? Were you trained to become a nurse? I have to become my own medication. And if I'm not careful, I'll take the same medication.
And nurses even make mistakes. So you need to
Blaming yourselves for those simple mistakes that we may make in trying to provide care. And then being mad at ourselves about it so that I am not going to take care of myself. Because I'm not going to take off. I got to be here because I messed up last week. I don't use the word crazy, but it's crazy. Because if you're not rested and you have not taken care of yourself, you're going to make more mistakes.
Yes.
Those eyes will cross together and you won't know what you're doing. So give yourself permission to be human with the potential to fail and make mistakes. Failing does not mean you are a failure. You're not a failure, but we all have failed. Every single one of us. So forgive yourselves, get over it. And stop acting like a guilt-ridden person that feels like you don't deserve to be healthy and to be at peace. And then the last one, I just said it earlier, believe you are worthy of making yourself a priority. I wonder if we can say that. I believe I am worthy of making myself a priority. Now, you know what? I know a lot of us have been taught that that's narcissistic. We grew up in homes where we saw the same behaviors we are exhibiting in trying to care for others. We saw our mamas and daddies not take no time off, not rest, and they're not here, are they? It is not narcissistic. How many of you have ever flown on an airplane? For those of you who have not, when we get on that dreaded plane, and I don't like to fly, but I have to. When we get on that plane, one of the first things we learn, if for any reason this plane loses pressure, you are to put the mask on who? First, to make sure you have enough oxygen to help somebody else. Y'all are out of oxygen. You can put that mask on everybody else. And your loved ones love you. They care about you. They want you to still be here to help them. But you're going to have to say, I need to have some rest. I need to have a time of relaxation. No matter how much I love caring for you, there needs to be some time that I can take that's just for me. I don't have to think about anything else. Because here's what we're doing. May I borrow that water bottle? Thank you. I want you to pretend that this bottle is full and it has all the nutrients that all of us need to live. Everything is in here and it's full. Here's what we're doing. We're opening it up and we're pouring it out, giving it to everybody until it looks like this for us. You see what it looks like for us? That means we are depleted. So I know you're asking, well, how can I still be this loving caregiver and not give my nutrients? Well, it's called overflow. You have to keep pouring in your bottle until it overflows. Because then I can give to you out of the overflow. You get that? Does that make sense? You're pouring, so here's what you're doing. You're taking some time off. You're having time for meditation. You have time for prayer. You have time to do a walk. You have time to have a little trip. You have time to nurture yourselves. Notice I didn't say the spa, nails. That's because when you go in there and last talking, that's not rest. I went to get a massage. The lady said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I am silent." You won't get free therapy out of me, and I'm paying for this massage. Sometimes you can't get help in those places. It may feel okay once they get to the job, but I'm telling you, that's not always peaceful. You go in the nail shop, and I go in a shop, and I love them. But they are talking loud and singing and talking in their language and having a good time. And I can't even. So that's not the most peaceful place for me. My peaceful place is to get in my car and drive by the water by myself. And if my dog acts right, she may get to go. But that's my little space. Or going on a retreat where you can't take your phone and you have the ability to shut it all down. Or just taking 15 minutes and create an altar for yourself in your house or in your backyard or somewhere where you can go. And if you do it, every time you go to that space, you'll start feeling at peace. Because that's your well space. So we have to do that. If we don't, we're going to be sick. And how can we help anybody if we're sick and we're irritable? Our loved ones don't deserve that. We're being short with them because we're short fused. They're being who they always are. right? They're being who they are. They're not responsible for their illness. And they deserve to have us in a healthy space so we can help them in a healthy way. But if you don't take care of yourself, get some good sleep and rest, won't happen. How many hours of sleep are you supposed to get? 6 to 8 hours of sleep. And that's without jumping up. Now, you know, as we age, I'm in my 70s, so I understand. I have to go a little bit more. I have to break that sleep a little bit. And thank God I can make it sometimes. I'm just keeping it real. But 6 to 8 hours of sleep. Now let me ask the question. How many did you get 6 to 8 hours of sleep? Okay. Okay. All right. See, that's not enough. Not enough of you are getting enough sleep. So you've got to do that. Again, we cannot tell our caregiver, now you need to change the way you calling on me. Because sometimes they're not calling on you. You're jumping in the room every 10 minutes worrying them. They want you to go take a break and have a break. Mama, you okay? You just sleep. Are you asleep? Come on, folks. Let's do a better job. Let's do a better job.
Amen.
I want you to
Amen.
celebrate yourselves for what you are doing to show love to someone else. I want you to celebrate that. That is such a blessing. Oh, there are so many blessings you will receive. I'm a witness to that. I loved Harold and Henrietta Phillips to the very end. I was with them until the end. I have no regrets. But were there days I was tired? Yes. Were there days I was scared? Yes. And were there days that I thought I could have done more? Yes. But I realize now that I did everything I could. And I still tried to get rest, to laugh, to have a little fun, to take a little time off so that I could be the best I could be for the two of them because they deserved it. Amen. So I wanted to leave some time for Q&A and I'll let you facilitate.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Morrow. Thank you. Are there any questions in the room? I really appreciated it. I actually have a question that's more like in the weeds when it comes to dealing with psychological trauma or grief or intrusive thoughts. And something that I've learned is that oftentimes when you're dealing with overwhelming emotion, whether it's like an intrusive thought or a memory or we're just angry or upset, we can start to dissociate and leave our bodies when we do things to numb ourselves. So for example, for me, I have an intense sweet tooth. So I try to not that horrible, my teeth are a reflection of that. So I try not to eat sweets, but whenever I get stressed, I go straight to get ice cream or something like that. And that numbs my emotions and I feel calm. And people do that with like all kinds of stuff, like drinking or shopping or whatever, right? Watching TV. Like, do you have any tips for how we can kind of sit with those emotions and not dissociate and leave our body?
That's such a good question. All of us have ways of self-medicating. That's what she's talking about. So whether it's sweets, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, excessive shopping, gambling. These are all forms of self-medication. I think it starts with acknowledging. I think you were right on it to say, I know what I'm doing to self-medicate. And then to be intentional about putting things in your toolkit, such as journaling. How many of you like to write? Sometimes journaling is good. Sometimes meditation and prayer. Really going to that place when you're feeling overwhelmed and you're just feeling out of control. And then sometimes, because it's been going on for a while, seeking the help of a trained mental health professional is what we need to do. There's no dishonor in that. In fact, if you're a caregiver, you all ought to have your own therapist. You should, because you need somebody to walk with you through this process. It is difficult. And so if you have someone that you can talk to, that helps you to stay in the here and now, as opposed to doing that disconnect that she's talking about. The key is don't suffer in silence. If you're struggling and you're suffering through this phase of your life, get some help. It's important to do that because you might need a guide to help you to not go to those different ways that we will self-medicate. So thank you. Great.
I appreciate all of your comments, and hi, Axe family. Good to be with you all virtually today. Thank you so much for just the helpful information that you shared, and always being vulnerable and telling us about your life to let us know that we're not alone. Two questions I have. One is, do you have a recommended resource for learning or taking a deeper dive into self-compassion?
Okay, there are a lot of classes now. I think if you just use Google, you'll find them because we understand finally that if people don't start taking care of themselves, they're going to be sick. So I think we're learning more and more about, it's usually called self-care, but I call it self-compassion because we have so much compassion for everybody except ourselves. So look for that, and then my email is going to be available if anyone wants to email me, and we can, if you have questions that you want to ask about resources, then I'm able to help you.
Okay, great. The second question is also about resources, but more specifically about therapy. I know that there's so many of us caregivers, and our community, the population of caregivers is growing, especially those caring for those with dementias. How do you find a therapist that understands caregiving?
Well, we get to interview our therapists. That's something I really want to empower all of you to do. If you feel like you need to talk to someone, you can ask questions of that therapist. You can ask them about their knowledge about self-care and compassion and caregiving. If it's ethnic specific, you can ask them, what is your experience in working with people of color? If you're needing somebody who comes from a religious or spiritual perspective, you can ask those questions before you settle in on a therapist. And if they aren't able to give you what you need, you can get somebody else. And I want to tell people that even with your medical doctors, stop settling for somebody that's not treating you well. You have a choice. You are the patient. Without you, they have no job. So we need to start advocating for ourselves when we go for therapy or go to a doctor or go to a dentist or go wherever you need to go. If that person is making you sit and wait all day long and not taking care of your needs and just piling you full of medication, you need a second opinion. because we are over-medicated. We are an over-medicated society. They have a pill for you to lay down, a pill for you to get up, a pill for you to stay up, and all over again. So we've got to advocate for ourselves because there are some other things we can do. And let me just tell you this, why I'm so glad you brought this up, because I meant to mention this. There are some things we can do for our mental health. And one of the things is exercise.
Yeah.
We got to get those bodies moving. Going for a walk, you don't have to run and jog. Just go for a 15-minute walk every day. 7.5 minutes one way and 7.5 the other way. Do some mental games. You know, especially if you have a history of Alzheimer's or dementia, you need to keep that brain going and activated. So doing word puzzles and doing stuff like that can help you. If you have the potential for depression, stay away from sugar. I'm so sorry. If you have the potential for depression, stay away from sugar. Sugar pulls you down. So if you want to be down, you just go have that pound cake. While you're feeling down, you'll really feel down. And I know you're not going to like this because Starbucks has a hit out on me when I say this. But if you are anxious or have the potential for anxiety, leave that caffeine alone. Caffeine is a natural stimulant. It will rev you up. So if you're already anxious, you're going to be over the top if you're drinking coffee every morning. I got to have me a little coffee. Well, have you some decaf. Leave that caffeine alone. It makes you, jittery. So you got to stop doing those things that are harmful. Here's something else. Surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah. Number one.
I tell everybody, some of you need to pull out your cell phones and just start deleting some folks. Because you're talking to people that will bring you down every time. Even when you call them and say, oh, I got to tell you this good news, they will have something bad to say. And the next thing you know, you're back in the bed. You're down by association. Because you're associated with some folks that are down. Everybody can tell you what to do. You're a caregiver, and somebody who's never cared for anyone a day in their life is telling you how to be a caregiver. Click, delete. Why preoccupy yourself with that? Folks that are naysayers and dream killers and snatchers and don't care about you. They just want to tell you what to do, be all in your life and in your business. Cut them off. And then, this is my go-to. My spiritual connection is pivotal to my good health. Spending time with God. Spending real time with Him. I'm not talking about courting Him. I'm talking about relationship. I'm talking about really getting into His Word, praying, being around people that know God and love God. Because I have hope with that. I have a history of trying to leave here prematurely. So I have to take care of myself. I cannot allow my mind to go in 50 different directions. I can't stay around negative people. If you're negative, you got to go. Because I'm not going to be healthy. So you have to choose your health over everything else and do what it takes. I lost 160 pounds 2 years ago. I kept it because I want to live. It's not about being cute. I was already cute. I was already cute. It's about being healthy to be here. to live my purpose out. And you can't do it when you're not healthy. You can't. You don't have the energy or the synergy. I can run. I'm happy to be 74. I'm happy to be alive. And I'm happy to feel healthy. I went to the doctor. They said nothing. No diabetes, no nothing. Hypertension, no nothing. My doctor said, I need your report. But I had to work for that.
You didn't just let go and let God, did you?
I had to work for it. It was painful. I had to work for it because I had lived the other way so long. I had to work for that. I had to give up bad habits. I had to decide that my life was worth living. And that people needed me. And if people need me, I needed to be healthy for me first. So I know how to say no and not feel guilty. Because if I had it in my space to do, I would do it. But I don't. Because now I'm over into my nutrients. I can only give to you out of my overflow. Today, you got out of my overflow. You can't get out of my house.
Let's say thank you again and praise God for Dr. Morrow. Dr. Morrow, we so thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for that 2-hour drive and for making it here and giving us all the extra nutrients. We hope you get to feel back up.
Oh, I will.
Yes, yes. So,